call this meeting to order. This is a legally constituted meeting of the Town of Charlie Planning Board. Legal notice of this meeting has been posted in the Gates Charlie News and on the bulletin board in the front vestibule of the Town Hall. If you could please silence your pagers or your phones, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the event of an emergency, please use the exits at the front and the rear of the room. We will proceed with the agenda in the order in which it was published unless otherwise stated. Please when called, please proceed to the podium, state your name, and if you're representing an applicant, indicate the applicant's name. Review the details of the application. Planning board members and side table participants will address questions and concerns to the applicant or their representative. For the public hearing portion of the meeting, upon completion of comments from the board and the side table, anyone wishing to comment on the application will be heard. If you wish to speak, please wait to be recognized by the chairperson. Stand, state your name and address for the record. Please speak so all can hear your comments and address all comments and questions to the chairperson. I will now introduce the board members and the side table participants. To my far left is Joe Defendis, Matt Emmons, Al Hellaby is excused. I'm Mike Nyhan, Glenn Hyde, Dave Cross, Paul Blozier. Our planning board counsel is Matthew Piston. Our building department manager is Paul Wanzenreed. Our town engineer, Michael Hanscom, has been excused. And our recording secretary is Sandra Hewlett. The first application is the application of King Park 2022 LLC, P.O. Box 170 North Chili, New York 14514. Andrew Vieira, P.O. Box 170 North Chili, New York 14514, owner, for final site plan approval for phase one of a three-phase project as noted in the site plan, consisting of 1,200 square foot buildings, parking areas, and associated infrastructure at the property located at 30 King Road in an LI district.
Good evening. So I'm back. We were here before, and actually Andrew couldn't make it tonight. Him and his wife just had a baby 3 days ago, and it's their third child, and I told him to stay home and enjoy the family, which didn't take much to do that. Anyway, so we were here in December, and we received the preliminary overall approval for this flex space project, along with our special permit for a similar use to the zoning that's allowed. And we also received the seeker determination as an unlisted action. So we're here for final approval for phase one, which is just the two buildings on the northern side, which I think we talked about last time. This is going to be the building that Andrew and Rock Earth is going to be in. That's his building. So that's going to be the first phase. So that will require us to put all the sanitary sewer in, the pump station, the entrance road, the water service, the backflow. We'll have to put in all the stormwater control devices, get everything set up. But at least this will get us off the ground, and we've already submitted to the Health Department, Water Authority, Pure Waters, and we received their okay to submit to them, or for Mylars. We also have the County DOT set to go to receive our paperwork for the permit, with a few other administrative items we have to give them prior to getting the permit. So I did receive comments from the town engineer, and I believe for the majority of them are technical comments, which we can address fairly easily with just some additional detail on the plans and finishing that up prior to submitting any Mylars or anything for final approval. We have received the initial okay from CSX for the permit required. What we have to do is encase the force main in a 8-inch steel casing under the railroad. So we'll have to bore and jack that and put that in before we put the force main. So we're just finishing that up. I guess the other thing I wanted to point out, and that came up with Mike's letter too, as far as the areas, when we talked about that last time, as far as designating areas for our storage. So what I did was, we called out a stone area in the back that we didn't need for parking. All parking will be on the asphalt. We have a stone area which we were going to use for storage of equipment, some materials, temporary storage of materials, and I think Andrew had mentioned that before, that we may need to store some of his vehicles back there temporarily when they're not using certain pieces of equipment. It came up in Mike's letter about storing soil, stone, things that may leach into the stormwater area. And I just wanted to say that we could put barriers back there if we do end up doing something like that. And I could note that on the plans. And what we've done before is install, take those precast concrete barriers, and they can carry them back there and just, stack those along the edge there to make sure nothing runs into the stormwater pond. So as part of this, we will get the entrance in, a gated lockbox entrance so that only the tenants can go in there, and it will be open to the, the lock will be available to the fire department, obviously, and emergency vehicles. So, and I guess that's it. If you have any other questions for it.
The major issue was your sanitary sewer for the railroad, so if you've got that.
What was that?
I think the major concern was the sanitary sewer.
Right.
And the storage, so
Right.
you've addressed all of that.
Yep.
And the engineer will approve whatever method that, in the building department, that'll be appropriate to protect that area from leaching and from the stone being pushed, or whatever the material is being pushed in
Right.
there when they're loading it or unloading it.
Yeah, well, so I think we can guard against that. We can make a note to make sure that he doesn't,
Okay,
that's not an issue.
okay. Paul, or Joe?
Once you've completed the first building and you haven't done the rest, you have no intention of using the whole site as a storage area for...
What is the first building going to be used?
No. In other words, you've built the first building, but the other ones aren't built. That site's just going to stay empty. I mean, you might have some minor storage, but we're not going to see piles of stone, piles of soil, piles on the rest of the site. Okay.
We definitely, would like to clear it, get it prepared possibly, and just to follow the overall grading, so in case he needs to cut or fill, but, at this point, there would not be anything over there.
You're going to do the entire site infrastructure right up front?
No,
Just the grading and then build to building one?
just to get in the first, driveway and get over to his building.
Okay. I'm all set.
So Bob, are we, going back to the outdoor storage of the materials, are we going to enclose the areas like the bunkers that were talked about?
Stone and soil?
Yeah.
Well, what we can do, and we've done this before, we've put those precast buildings on the back end of the parking lot, and actually, we could segregate it off, we could divide them also.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just the way I typically see it, but I guess the biggest thing is addressing the concern of the town engineer and getting a barrier across the back if the owner decides to build out the bunkers and separate them. That's his own choice, but yeah, I would just say that, as a condition, we want to make sure that there's barriers in place there for the storage of the materials to keep that separated physically from that area.
Anything else?
I'm good right now. Thank you.
Nothing at this time? Bob, just a quick question. You're not proposing any landscaping along King Road, it doesn't look like. You're leaving existing vegetation there? Is that right?
As far as along the front area?
Yeah, the frontage, yeah.
That was our intent.
Yeah, no,
At
that's,
this point, we're going to have to be putting some bioretention areas along there.
I see that, you fit those in, but between those bioretention areas and
the asphalt on King Road, that's all just existing vegetation, right? Okay, that's pretty well screened.
That was in town.
Thank you.
Anything from the side table?
In a correspondence with you and CSX, how deep is that boring going to be?
6 feet.
That's what the letter allowed you to do, or will allow you to do, is 6 feet on an 8-inch? You're putting an 8-inch pipe
It would be 5.5, 6 feet for the 8-inch.
for the 8-inch. Okay.
I know we had one time, we talked about the drilling might have to be really deep.
Yeah, it was like 25, somewhere between 25 and 40, somewhere in,
but
Ungodly.
Steel casing, we can bring it up.
you can bring it up? Okay. But you still don't have the correspondence from that? The final letter from them approving that?
No, I sent them, after I forwarded you the email.
Yep.
So I finally got a hold of somebody and talked to
Mhm.
the person, and he was, good explaining to me what they needed, so I emailed back and forth, got it worked out, and exactly the type of steel casing, the size and everything, the thickness and all that good stuff. So I revised their plans, we have to have them in special 11 by 17 plans in their format. So I updated our plans and sent those back to him, probably when I sent that to you 2 weeks ago. So I haven't followed up to see if they're finalized on it yet.
We'll want to have that prior to the signatures on Mylars, Bob, okay? And then who takes responsibility for the force main coming out of the property? Is the Department of Health doing that? There was some discussion between DOT and Department of Health, who was taking control of that?
Right, so it's going to be private, but the County Department of Transportation will allow it in their right-of-way as long as we provide a contract proposal from a firm that will stake it and be part of the Dig Safe program, which I've talked to a couple firms, and we've got a couple proposals actually. And they would be responsible that if there's ever an emergency or they need a stake out, that they would stake it out for us, so.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we have to guarantee the county that that will happen.
We'd like privy to correspondence with us too, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bob? We'll open the public hearing at this time. Anybody wish to make a comment on this application? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing portion.
Second?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Seeker was already completed for this project. So we'll move to conditions. Go ahead.
The Conservation Board minutes, it's a
did.
little confusing because I know he just answered the questions on the landscape plan, but it looks like they still have a couple outstanding items there.
Right, I was going to mention that you have to provide the total cost of the project, and 1% of that total cost needs to be in landscaping.
Right.
So you'll be providing a plan that shows the total cost of the project and that 1%.
Yes.
Okay, we'll need to have that. That'll be one of the conditions. You start talking about landscaping along the road. Wherever you may put it, it's 1% of the total project.
Yeah.
Will be landscaped. All right.
Yeah, we were struggling with it, obviously, because this is a, industrial flux plant site, so we weren't going crazy with the landscaping, and plus we were trying to reserve so much along the edges but I think now, especially in the front, we'll be able to add more, with
Right.
the bio
Right now, there's a lot
areas.
of wild growth in there. You could maybe remove some of that is screening and replace it with something that would be more appropriate screening year-round, not just in the
Yeah.
summer months.
Yeah.
But
we
would be
can
a
do
good
that.
spot. Because if you screen the entire parcel, then you don't have to worry about a lot of landscaping inside your parcel, because it doesn't look like you have much room other than in these center medians there for landscaping, because everything else is stone or asphalt. So,
Okay.
but you could submit that plan to the town, and then to be sure that it's 1%, and then you'll have to follow that when you complete it.
We have to put together the full letter of credit anyway, also.
Okay, all right,
We can do it at the same time.
okay. Any other discussion? Any other comments? The application of King Park 2022 LLC, P.O. Box 170 North Charlotte, New York, 14514 Andrew Vieira, P.O. Box 170 North Charlotte, New York, 14514 owner, for final site plan approval for Phase 1 of a three-phase project, as noted on the site plan, consisting of two 12,000 square foot buildings, parking areas, and associated infrastructure at the property located at 30 King Road in the LI District, with the following conditions. I'll repeat all that were on there before and any additional that have come up from since then. Approval is subject to final approval of the town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works. The town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works must be given copies of any correspondence with the other approving agencies. All previous conditions imposed by this board shall still pertinent to the application, remain in effect. Copies of all easements associated with this project shall be provided to the Assistant Town Council for approval, and a filing information, i.e. library and page number, shall be noted on the Mylars. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, all easements are to be filed and recorded with Monroe County and filed, recorded, and acknowledged by the Town of Charlotte clerk. Applicant shall provide landscaping equivalent to 1% of the total project cost. Upon completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a landscape certificate of compliance to the building department from a landscape architect certifying that all approved plantings have been furnished and installed in substantial conformance with the approved landscape plan. Building permits shall not be issued prior to the applicant complying with all conditions. The application is subject to all required permits, inspections, and code compliance regulations. No storage of noxious materials. Delineate the location of outside storage of materials. No outside major vehicle repair other than maintenance type activity. No storage or disposal of construction debris on site. Outside storage of construction materials will not exceed 12 feet in height. Property not to be used for production or reclamation activities. No screening, sifting, sieving, or processing of materials shall be conducted on site. Storage of materials on site limit to active lease suites and only to those areas designated on the site plan submitted for approval. No storage of materials in additional phases while waiting for the development of those phases. We mentioned that earlier, storing them on phases 2 and 3. Appropriate barriers in place to address engineering concerns of stored materials entering into the bioretention areas. Any other conditions that I may have missed? So for that application with these conditions, do I have a second?
Second.
Yes.
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 I also vote yes, this is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I had. Thanks, appreciate it. The next two applications we'll hear together. The application of Vistaville Holdings LLC, CO Bill Howard, 3313 Charlotte Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14624. Applicant owner for a preliminary subdivision approval of 47 lots to be known as Vista Villas Phase 2. Property located at 100 Clubhouse Drive, PRD District. Application of Vistaville Holdings LLC, CO Bill Howard, 3313 Charlotte Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14624. Applicant owner for a preliminary site plan approval to erect 47 single-family dwellings, Vista Villa Phase 2, property located at 100 Clubhouse Drive, PRD District.
Good evening. My name is Peter Vars from BME Associates, appearing tonight on behalf of Vista Villas Holdings. With me is Mr. Bill Howard of Vista Villas Holdings, Robert Marks, his counsel, and Fred Shelley, who's our project design team leader at BME. We were last here back on March 12th to initiate the public hearings on the applications that are before you. discussed the project in great detail. Since that time, I just want to update you on the progress we've made over the past month. We did provide written responses to the town engineer's comments. They had issued their initial comments back on March 8th. We provided written responses back to those last week. We've had further conversations with the Commissioner of Public Works on a variety of items contained in that letter, to the point that we have basically achieved what we believe is consensus that what really is remaining is technical items that we feel comfortable being able to address. I do want to acknowledge we did receive the most recent letter from the town engineer last week, the April 4th letter, that contained his comments on the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan design, the SWIP. We don't see anything in there as anything prohibitive to being able to address, or anything that really changes the nature of the design. Probably one of the biggest items, or probably the biggest item that we were sent away with to work on since last month, was the traffic study. So we did commission to have a traffic study prepared. It was prepared by Passero Associates with SRF Associates, who's now part of Passero. The scope of that study we determined based on input we had received from this board back on the 12th of March, but also in subsequent conversations, joint conversations with the Commissioner of Public Works, the New York State DOT, and the Monroe County DOT, such that the scope was established that we would analyze 5 intersections. I'm going to start north to south. We would study the Archer Road, Paul Road intersection, which is under the jurisdiction of Monroe County. We would study the Archer Road, Beaver Road intersection, which is under the jurisdiction of the New York State Department of Transportation. And then we would study 3 intersections along Archer Road, which are under the jurisdiction of the town of Chili, one being Beaver Road Extension, one being the existing subdivision street of Vista Villas, Prestwick Lane, and then the third intersection being the proposed intersection of Vista Villas Drive. This report consisted of obtaining current traffic counts along at all of those intersections. Those were done on March 21st of this year, and they were actually supplemented by other traffic count data that SRF Passero had accumulated back in October of 2022. So they had certain data that they were able to compare. Also importantly, per discussions we had received with you and subsequent conversations with the Commissioner of Public Works, is we also accounted for full build-out of certain developments within the area that maybe are not fully built out today, but we were able to project that traffic and enter it into the background traffic. That included the Rose Hill subdivision, the mixed-use project approved for 751 Paul Road, and the project known as the 177 Archer Road Millhouse Park. So those uses were accounted for in the background traffic also. We did the trip generations for the proposed full 175 lots of the sections 2 through 6. So this was not just done for phase 2. It was done for the full build out of the proposed development. Trip distribution was applied to the surrounding highway network based upon the existing distribution, which is basically 65% of the traffic northbound, 35% of the traffic southbound. The analysis revealed that all of the intersections studied would continue to operate at a level of service of C or better, C being identified by the county and the state as being a satisfactory level of service. But more importantly, what the analysis showed was that with the full build out of this project, there'd be no degradation in the level of service from the current levels of service at those intersections. That's all documented in the report. The report has been provided to the town, to the county, and to the state for their review. The report did not identify the need for any mitigation or improvements at any of these subject intersections, again, given the satisfactory level of service. Couple of other things, they did analyze the site distance at the proposed intersection. It found that the proposed intersection, both looking to the north and looking to the south, meets and it actually exceeds the required stopping site distance. The desired intersection site distance, it meets that to the south. It is short to the north by about 20 feet. The recommendation on that, following the standards of both the county and the state, is that an intersection warning sign would be posted. That is the only mitigation that is recommended at that location, because again, we do meet the required site distance requirement, which is the stopping site distance. In summary, what the traffic study found was that based on the analysis, it found that the results show that that there will not be any potential for significant adverse environmental impact for the purpose of the environmental review as it relates to seeker. So that comprehensive traffic study has been completed, it's been provided. The results of it show that there'd be no change in services at the subject intersection. So we believe that was the main technical component of this application. And then I think the other item we kind of had before us is really, for lack of a better way to put it, how do we proceed? Because there was some question as it relates to where we are today versus where the project was in 2015, what approvals were granted in 2015 for Phase 2, Phases 2 through 6, seeker, Phase 2, seeker 3 through 6. I know council and staff are going to be looking at that. I believe we have a level of comfort in the fact that we do know we need subdivision approval for Phase 2, and we do need site plan approval for Phase 2. I think the question was, how does this relate to the future sections? I believe it was established subdivision approval is established for the remaining phases 3 through 6, but I think the question mark was as it relates to site plan for 3 through 6. So I think that's one thing we do have to hopefully get clarification for this evening. But I think more importantly, I do believe we have addressed the concerns as it relates to Phase 2, the 47 lots, as it relates to subdivision and site plan, so that hopefully we can move forward with that, but knowing we still may have the question as to site plan for the remaining phases. With that, I don't know, Robert, if you have anything to ask, or if we can answer any questions or proceed with the hearing as you see fit.
Did you have anything to add before we ask
I don't
questions?
have anything to add. I don't know if Matt, if you've given, Matt or Paul, if you've given sort of an update as to your findings from past month to the planning board.
It would appear that subdivisions approvals have been given and that subdivisions were equated with site plans. So you have site plan, you have a subdivision approval. In any housing tract, residential tract that we've ever done, it's always been subdivision approvals. And subdivision equates to site plan in that genre, if you will. So that's how, in this case, they got a subdivision approval, site plan approval for Phase 1 when it was back with the Links. They started the project, built a few houses, it sat forever. Then they came back through, modified the PRD through the board, as they were supposed to dissolve the HOA and the golf course and the clubhouse. That was completed, and subsequently the lands were, where there was golf areas, were either instituted into existing lands in the Phase 1 or put back into the overall project, if you will. There's that area that you're trying to develop now, Phase 2. That was put back in the overall project. And another developer came on board, and he developed or presented Phases 2 through 6. Got preliminary subdivision approval for those, and that's pretty much where we stand right now. So, and I believe seeker was done for 2 through 6 on preliminary subdivision approval. So that's where we are right now.
So obviously our position is whatever we need to do, you know, we want to go forward and do. But is it my understanding you're saying subdivision approvals equate to site plans?
That's what the town is, that's been the past practice of the town,
Okay.
subdivision plats.
So that means we don't need site plan approval because we're getting subdivision approval?
They're morphed together.
Okay.
I don't know how the legal term.
We have both.
The legal
I
term of it, but.
I think because a site plan approval was on the agenda, we perhaps could take care of it with one vote on both.
Right, I was like, we have both applications pending, so, but whatever we need to get, we want to get, and obviously, we've tried to get ahead of the curve and answer all the questions from last month, so that there were no concerns moving forward, even if we have to go through more processes, so. I don't have anything further to add. However you want to proceed, we can answer questions.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing remained open, so the public hearing is open. Is there anybody that would like to make additional comments on this application? See,
Maybe just a little clarification on that. Oh, my name is Brad White, 268 Archer Road. Do you want me to go to the...
whatever you're comfortable with,
Oh, I'm fine.
as long as everybody can hear your voice.
All right, just maybe a little clarification on subdivision equating to site plan approval. Is that a standard practice in most towns?
It's part of the,
Oh,
yes,
yes?
it is part of
Okay.
the town law. I don't know what
Yeah,
other
just-
towns do. I know what we do in our town.
Okay, that's fine, yeah, and so we were just looking for clarity on that, and I think other than that, the other questions we asked have mostly been answered.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other, yes, sir.
I'm James Beaver, 256 Archer Road, recent president. My concerns would be, what I heard was they're looking to do the most minimum possible as far as the traffic, and in some cases, just a small warning sign. I live in an area where there's a blind spot. To say that the area would not be overrun by 175 houses, let's say those are all single families, they produce one vehicle, everybody carpools. It's 175 more residents right in our area using that pathway. As well as the drainage, they're looking to build up high. We have septic systems over there. There's some concern of the quality of the water, the pure water cleanouts as well as the sanitary. And then what about us residents that are there? Viele.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, how are you? I just kind of jumped in on this, so if this has already been covered, I apologize. I just wanted to ask, to start with, the size of the lots, 147.
Sir, could I get your name?
Mike DeVito, D-I-V-I-T-O, okay? I'm at 2 Black Cedar Drive. Okay, the size of the lots in themselves, are we, of the 147, are we talking a third of an acre, half acre? What will that look like?
There's a, I don't have the dimension in front of me, Paul, do you? There's a minimum and a maximum dimension which each of the lots meet based on.
I'm sorry,
There's a minimum and a maximum size for each lot, which has been accomplished through the PRD that was approved through the town board.
so that's been approved and is
Yes, correct.
on the road, okay.
Correct. I don't know
All
the
right.
exact square footage right now.
Maybe you've covered the next one I was thinking of, the,
Excuse me,
Yeah, what was established was a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, maximum lot size of 20,000 square feet. So the lots could range anywhere from a quarter of an acre to a half acre.
thank you.
quarter of an acre to half acre.
Correct.
And I was in a development for 38 years, and I had a third of an acre, and a lot has changed in that 50-year period in terms of families, how they live their lives and so on. And this, I'm talking about campers, boats, other jet skis, you know the drill in terms of what happens. And then if it's a one-car garage, you're already dead in the water. Two-car garage, that doesn't even begin to help. Not today with the somewhat affluence that we have and that we enjoy. So I'm concerned about a subdivision starting out very beautiful and very nice, And then over the lifespan of that development, it becomes very, very unattainable for families. And there are issues, especially if families begin to disagree with neighbors and so on and have problems. So I think that's an issue. The other one, sidewalk, street lighting, are they in there? This is where people are going to live.
So sidewalks, yes. Sidewalks are being provided as required. There's no streetlights proposed. Houses will be outfitted with post lights.
All right, thank you.
There are street trees as
Oh, no,
well.
there are streetlights, sorry. Apologize.
And Peter, there's street trees as well, right?
Yes, correct, yes. So
I-
sidewalks, street trees, streetlights.
I chuckle a bit because we said lamp lights by the residents. And during the years of Jimmy Carter, nobody had those damn things on. It was black. But my concern is you get kids, like on Halloween and so on, they're walking in the street, bunches of them, and there's always a chance for a terrible tragedy. So I'm glad to hear I'm glad you guys have followed through on that one. Other than that, the big one for me really is knowing where do you put the camper, where do you put the boat? What are people doing? Is there enough room? Do they have 2-car garages? Do they have 3-car garages? That it becomes an issue between neighbors and a potential problem. Instead of saying, we love this development, we're all good neighbors, we're friends, it turns into an East Bank and a West Bank. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, Barb Denegris, 254 Archer Road, directly south of the development. There were two main concerns that we brought up last month, and I don't see where either one has been really considered. The first one is the traffic. That is a town road, 3-ton limit, 4-ton limit, and we get Casella trucks, we get 18-wheelers coming down there. Nothing goes 30 miles an hour. It's always far more than 30 miles an hour. That makes it very difficult for my driveway at 254. James is right next door to me, the house next door to him, pulling out into traffic. The intersection, from what I understand, back when we did the some of the committee work that we did in this town many years ago, it was pointed out that it was very important to the highway department that you have a crossroads, which is what they supplied at Rose Hill. That's a crossroad, and they also put a turning lane in there because you weren't able to see around that corner. That's a state road. This road, that would not be possible to have a crossroad coming out of Vista Villa and coming across from Beaver Extension. That's an accident waiting to happen. Nobody, I don't care if you put a big neon sign saying that there's an intersection coming up, nobody pays attention to that. I don't know what the highway department and their assessment is, but they're not looking at reality. If they were considering the fact that it's a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit, then they're way off course. That is not a safe place. And I think you have to have some kind of an exit road coming out of that if you have so many developments. Houses, you can't use just Pickwick. I think I haven't actually learned the name of that road, even though it's been there for years. But you have to have an entrance for so many houses coming out another way. That's just not going to work. Especially when I wish we had the plan up here again. It would have been helpful to all of us. If you're coming across Beaver Extension, Archer Road is coming down here. There's going to be people that are going to try to cut through, as they do on Beaver Extension. They try to beat the light, so they come across Beaver Extension, which used to be just a little dirt road. Now it's widened. People come out there, they look as best they can up toward the railroad track, north on Archer. to see if they can pull out this way, pull south on Archer Road. If they're trying to get into Vista Villa by turning left into Vista Villa, they're going to be stopped by traffic coming up from the stop sign, the traffic light, which means you're going to have a traffic jam. It's not going to work, especially at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The 5 o'clock traffic actually starts around 3:30 in the afternoon and doesn't finish until about 6. And if there is a train that goes across that crossing, the traffic can be backed up all the way to the crest of the hill. The important thing is that there's a crest on that road. It's not flat. And I know I have come out Beaver Extension and not been able to see all the way to the railroad tracks without pulling way out toward Archer to make sure I could peek around maybe garbage pails that are there, whatever. So I'm very concerned about the traffic and the fact that it is a 4-ton limit, and that is a town road, and we're eventually going to have to pay to keep that road maintained. The town is. I also spoke with Doug Biesenbach. I don't think he'll mind my using his name. He's another person who's lived on Archer Road for 50 years at least. His mother has beyond that. And he is below, south of the Phase 1, which has been there for several years. There's 2 mitigation ponds that have been put in there, and neither one helps Doug with his soggy backyard. There was a willow tree that was left up between Doug's backyard and the houses along Vista Villa. And the willow tree went down 5 years ago, was never cut up, never removed, and his backyard has been soggy ever since. And we know what willow trees are like. We have a lot of them in Chile because Chile is a very wet town. We know that. So it is going to affect the traffic and the drainage, which is my next concern, is going to affect not only the 4 or 5 houses that are right here below this curvature of development, but it's going to affect all those people up that way too. Let's see, the drainage part is what concerns me a lot also, because my backyard has been wet ever since I moved in 1974. I had, as part of the house, there was a barn in the back, and the barn still is there, a cement brick, concrete brick barn, and it is now falling apart because it can't be insured because all the bricks are shifting because of all the water that has come down there. I've learned to live with it. I've had horses there. I've had in the pasture, which extends down south of the property line, and you just know that it's very wet and soggy, and it won't dry out until maybe May. So I'm concerned about the leach lines and septic lines that we all have along there. I'm also concerned about the houses that are being built there. They don't understand drainage. They've probably come from no place that has any drainage problem. And a lot of us had to have our basements fixed so that the groundwater could be rediverted down to the road drainage pipe, and that kind of stuff presses against the basement walls of any house. So I don't know how many sump pumps they'd have to have. I have one, and it's running constantly, except maybe in a very hot, dry summer. And I know it's the same for my house on either side. The house north to me always has a wet backyard. There's a very serious drainage problem there. Now, maybe the people up here could explain to some people who may not know, because it was outlined to me earlier this afternoon, what a mitigation pond is, what a swale is, and as far as I can see, it all depends on gravity. And I don't know why they chose to put those houses smack dab against the property lines of those of us who have a backyard that reaches out why they couldn't put the houses back up on top of that hill where there's a crest and finish what Prestwick Road is. There was a gentleman here last month who lives there at the end of that, and he said all they do is just put boulders there. He doesn't understand why they don't continue the road, so that it could be continued up here instead of right smack dab where it's basically wet. If ever any of you came and walked back there, you'd have to have boots on. It's wet. So that's not going to help anybody who's living there, or certainly not going to help us who have been living there for years. And I've said it many times in front of this board and the town board, that my impression of the board is that it's there to protect the people who already live there. And I would like to know that my backyard isn't going to be flooded. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Rachel Harrison. I live on Prestwick.
I'm sorry, your name?
Rachel Harrison.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions. I was looking to see if there's, to clarify, there is not going to be a new environmental impact study?
There is. We'll be discussing that later.
Okay. And then, will the traffic study be made public at all? I didn't see it in the supporting documents.
It is on the town website, right, as of today. I don't know when it was put there, but it is on there. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Stephen Tarbell, 29 Prestwick Lane. I'm just curious in understanding, when I originally purchased a deal on my lot on Prestwick Lane, a couple options were to go to Country Club or on Prestwick Lane. And what they said, well, if the house is on Prestwick Lane, it's probably a good one because no one's ever going to build behind you because it's too wet back there. And then, but I always figured that they would eventually, when I asked, well, what's phase 2? And phase 2, I was told, was going to be across the road from me. So I did inquire at the time. I think his name was Mr. Pooler. I made a phone call then and asked about if he had any information about if he knew when phase 2 was. And it was probably going to be a few years down the road. So I made the decision to get the lot on Prestwick Lane. And I was just curious, how did phase 2 get changed from across the road from me to where it's going to be behind me? And that's all I really want to know. Okay?
Sure. Be glad to answer that. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I also vote yes. A couple things, Peter, if you could address. So first, the change to the project came 9 years ago, I believe it was, wherein the developer went to the town board, requested a change to PRD, which changed phases 2 through 6, eliminated a golf course. I think behind Prestwick was a golf hole.
Correct.
That got changed from a golf hole to phase 2, which are now homes. That was all approved 9 years ago. So that's how that got changed, was through a application process approximately
2015.
2015. So, and that is phase 2 through 6, which is the 174 homes that was approved from a preliminary subdivision approval.
Correct.
If you could, I know no water is allowed to drain off of the yards that you're proposing into any other yard, and I know you have a swale. I wish you had your drawing here. You could.
No, I do. I can hang one up.
Could you please do that and show where there will be a swale to prevent water from Prestwick into the homes you're building, as well as any runoff from whatever the name of the new street will be, and the cul-de-sac into any lot that is on Archer Road?
This
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so like everybody, the audience can still see it too. All right.
Okay. Can you hear me fine? Okay, good. So, so from the drainage standpoint, there's a high point here, and so the drainage does want to drain east to west. It does drain towards Archer Road. What this design does to address that drainage condition in the post-construction, post-development standard is a couple of things. Primarily, the big thing it does with the extension, we will connect back to make a connection to Prestwick Lane, extend that, construct a new street, Vista Village Drive, which will come out onto Archer Road, a couple hundred feet south of Beaver Road Extension. So there is a second means of access being provided into this subdivision. But what this development does is, because of the street construction, it will include with it an enclosed storm sewer system, such that runoff that now drains east to west into these rear yards will now be intercepted in two primary locations. The storm sewer system that will be constructed along the proposed cul-de-sac street, that will intercept runoff, collect it from the runoff from the proposed homes plus surface runoff of the lands upstream, collected in that storm sewer system. That storm sewer system runs south and will discharge into stormwater management facilities that's proposed in the rear of the southernmost Phase 2 lots, where that water will be contained, treated, detained, and discharged to Black Creek. The other thing is, so we do have lots that are proposed to back up to the existing Archer Road residence. As a requirement through the plan review process, the Public Works Department staff, and even this board yourselves, going back to the 2015 approval that was granted for Phase 2, was the requirement that a swale be constructed along the rear yard of these lots to intercept any backyard drainage that comes off these last of these lots, collect that runoff, and convey it south to storm sewer structures that will be constructed, again, to take that runoff, take it south into the stormwater management facility, and then discharge to Black Creek. So what this development does, the stormwater management plan does, is basically it intercepts the runoff and collects it and sends it south to Black Creek and its associated wetlands. So we are intercepting the runoff. As you said, Mr. Chairman, it's a requirement of the town code that we cannot increase stormwater flow or runoff onto adjacent properties, and that's also overseen by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation as part of their stormwater design manual and stormwater discharge permitting requirements.
Okay.
And all that's documented in the engineer's report that's been provided to the town and has been, and that's when I referenced earlier that the SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, has been reviewed by your town engineer. He had some technical comments on it, but the principles and whatnot, he concurs with.
I thought it was important that you explain that, because there's a lot of concern about drainage to the neighbors, so that's why I wanted you to explain it, so thank you. Appreciate that. Any other discussion or comments? We did talk about the traffic study, and as you had mentioned, that was by another independent firm. Your firm did not do that. If there were any questions on that, there was a recommendation for the line of sight distance.
Sign.
For the sign, which will be a good condition. Any other concerns in that traffic study? To me, it looked like it all came back.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the disappointing thing to say out loud is that when it comes to the county and the state, a C grade seems fine. And that's unfortunately the state and the county's purview. And then that's the comments they've made. So we don't really have any jurisdiction over that. I mean, we could all write letters and complain to the state and the county that we don't agree with those things, but that's not the purview of the board.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do want to define, I would define level of service for you in the fact that, well, C may not be the grade you want to take home to your parents. How they rate this and is a level of of service C for an unsignalized intersection means the delay during the peak hour. In other words, which is in this area is between 7 and 9 a.m. in the morning and 4 and 6 p.m. in the afternoon. During that peak hour, when the volumes on those streets and roads are the highest, that a level of service C in an unsignalized intersection means your delay, your wait time, will be 15 to 25 seconds. For a signalized intersection, it means your wait time would be 20 to 35 seconds. Okay? And in the traffic study, they have the tables of all the various delays there. And as we're saying, just to Beaver Road Extension at Archer Road, the longest delay is in the evening, and it's 20 seconds to make a left turn from Beaver Road Extension onto Archer Road. So it's context. They consider but to kind of address a little bit more of your comment of when does the county or the state get concerned? Typically, that's when they'll look at when they see delays, what they call E or F. Those delays are when you're starting to approach a minute, 45 seconds or greater at an unsignalized intersection. It's actually over a minute for a signalized intersection. So they do have that criteria in there.
And to be fair, this is where reality and engineering butt heads, right? So
Yep.
the reality is that the engineering is based on the speed limits of the roads that are posted, right? The posted speed limits, and basically the flow of traffic that's happening through there, which everyone knows that they're not going those speed limits. So I think it seems exacerbated, like we're not really timing it, right? But to the point of the reality of it, like going down those roads, it's tough.
Mhm.
But the data that has been provided based on the engineering and what's there, it doesn't warrant anything else to happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and, there's a lot of background in how those studies are done, and what there's basic criteria in the front. First of all, it is based on actual counts, so it's actual data taken at those intersections. They sit there, they count the cars, who turns left, and actually at this request, it's documented. Even, for instance, at Beaver Road Extension, they identified heavy trucks, because that was one of the concerns. So they actually do the physical counts. Then they get the 24-hour counts, the rubber tubes. So this is all real data. Then they also get the actual signal timing, what are the phases. And there are computer programs that have been created, that have been vetted by all the necessary, entities, transportation officials, that are able to simulate how that traffic flows. And that's how they come up with what are acceptable delays. Because, and with any engineering, our term is there's a safety factor built in, about that. So, you're right. You can post a sign. We use design speeds at 5 posted plus 5 miles per hour. But, does that account? And that's typically the 85th percentile speed. And why that number is important, 85th percentile basically says every vehicle is, 85% of the cars on this road are traveling at this speed or less. So, do you account for the person that's driving 50, 55? No. But on the other hand, if the 85th percentile was there, then you would have to. So there is a lot put into this. But I kind of appreciate your comment. In a way, you're putting trust, I guess, into the transportation officials, the county, the state, and even the town engineer and commissioner of public works. But on the other hand, they do have the experience to read this data and understand it and interpret it.
Thanks. Any other discussion on that? Okay, there is discussion on seeker, and I know we spoke of seeker at the last meeting. There's been discussion of whether the seeker would be needed to be redone for phases 2 through 6, but just some additional information to take into consideration. Phase 2 through 6 receive preliminary subdivision, which means when they come back, all they'll need is final subdivision, which is the way we do just about any subdivision track in this town. As we get full build-out, we do seeker on the full build-out. Seeker was completed on the full build-out. And then with each new phase, we come back for that phase just to review it, and if there aren't any changes, to approve it as it was designed. This one lapsed because of the time frame when they got final approval. So as a result, Phase 2 needs a new seeker. But because of any changes to Phase 3 through 6, they would not be able to make any changes on that. And if they did, they'd have to go in front of the town board to redo their PRD. And then they would have to come back in front of the planning board to start over with their site plan or the re-subdivision, both preliminary and final. So with that knowledge, and now one of the things we asked was the biggest impact for seeker was the traffic study. And that traffic study was done on the full build out, not just on Phase 2. So with that, I feel more confident in seeker with doing for just Phase 2, based on the fact that nothing can change on the remaining phases without a complete change in the entire project through the town board and the planning board. But we need to vote on whether or not we were going to do that. So I think we should still take that vote. So I would like to make a motion on seeker to move forward with seeker for the Phase 2 application. I would just need a second and a vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I also vote yes. So with that in mind, I'll make a motion to declare the board lead agency as far as seeker, and based on evidence and information presented at this meeting, determine the application to be an unlisted action with no significant impact. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I also vote yes. There was some mitigation that was required based on your traffic study, which will make a condition of any approval. So for the conditions for this entire application, application 2 and 3, I have approval is subject to final approval of the town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works. The town engineer and the Commissioner of Public Works must be given copies of any correspondence with other approving agencies. All previous conditions imposed by this board are still pertinent to this application, remain in effect, which would be 2015. The conditions from 2015 to protect the current development. Copies of easements, of all easements associated with this project, shall be provided to the Assistant Town Council for approval, and all filing information, i.e. LIBOR page number, shall be noted on the Mylars. And prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, all easements are to be filed and recorded with Monroe County, and filed, recorded, and acknowledged by the Town of Child Clerk. Applicant to comply with all pertinent Monroe County Development Review comments. Applicant to comply with all required life safety conditions and permits from the fire marshal. The application shall provide landscape equivalent to 1% of the total project. The planning board affirms the recommendations of the conservation board for the landscaping plan and requests that the applicant comply with these recommendations. And upon completion of the project, the applicant shall submit a landscape certificate of compliance to the building department from the landscape architect, certifying that all approved plantings have been furnished and installed in substantial conformance with the approved landscape plan. Building permits shall not be issued prior to the applicant complying with all conditions. The application is subject to all required permits, inspections, code compliance regulations. And the developer shall provide a W2-2 traffic sign on Archer Road as recommended and provided in the traffic study, and work with the town, in coordination with the town on the installation. Any other conditions? Paul, any other conditions? No? Okay. With those conditions, let me see. Okay. With those conditions, the application of Vistaville Holdings LLC, CO Bill Howard, 3313 Charlie Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14624, applicant owner, for a preliminary subdivision approval of 47 lots to be known as Vista Villa Phase 2, property located at 100 Clubhouse Drive, PRD District. The application of Vista Villa Holdings LLC, CO Bill Howard, 3313 Charlie Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14624, applicant owner, for a preliminary site plan approval with the waiver of final to erect 47 single-family dwellings, Vista Villa Phase 2, property located at 100 Clubhouse Drive, PRD District.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I also vote yes, this is approved.
Great. Thank you very much for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'd like to also comment that a lot of the comments were made on the traffic as far as the trucks that are leaving whatever warehouses they leave and drive down Archer Road through the cut-through, as well as the speed, is certainly an enforcement issue, and I would encourage you, the sheriff's office works closely with neighbors to control traffic, so if you would reach out to the local substation to work with them, I am confident they will work with you to provide not only the traffic monitoring devices, but also traffic enforcement for Archer Road. Thank you. No other applications. I'll need a motion for, or I'll make a motion for the acceptance of last month's meeting minutes.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain?
Meeting.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Meeting minutes. Meeting minutes approval. I also
Glenn, you
approve.
had me
Meeting minutes are
confused.
approved.
Abstain curiously.
I think you should have just, said yes or no.
No, I didn't think I could.
Oh, shit. I just sort of turned it off.
Any other business? If not, meeting is adjourned.